Hi, it's Kristen and this is the Cosy Autumn book tag. So I have been wanting to do another tag video. It's just slightly easier content to make and put out than like reading vlogs and stuff. And I remembered that last year I saw quite a few people do this one and I thought it was perfect because it's autumn. I'm feeling autumnal, I'm feeling cozy, hence the coziest cardigan jacket I own is on. So I thought I would do this tag, which was created by Lucy at the Book Bell. If you see me look over here, it's because I've got my laptop with the questions. Question 1. What book always reminds you of autumn? And for this, I'm going to go with Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. I first read this when I was in my teens. I did it in year 11, I think, at school. We were studying Victorian literature, and so we studied Emily Bronte. This I then reread the following year and enjoyed more than I enjoyed it the first time, because I think the first time we read it we were like reading it like a chapter or two week by week and reading it quite slowly to study, and then the following year I just read it through for myself and enjoyed it a lot more. So this, if you don't know, is like a very famous classic. It's about a character called Catherine and a character called Heathcliff, who Heathcliff is adopted into Catherine's family. Her dad just like comes home one day, if I remember it correctly, and has this boy with him. And Heathcliff is not treated particularly well by the family apart from Catherine, and he and Catherine have this very intense love for each other, but their lives go in sort of opposite directions. They have a very tragic, tormented love. It's one of those books that there's not really any likable characters, and I feel like you either like that or you don't. But this reminds me of autumn because, well, first of all, this cover is very like dark and gloomy. I can't remember when it's set, but this takes place over like many years, so it's not necessarily because it's like set at autumn time, but there's lots of descriptions of like the windy moors and things like that. And also I think I also connect it to autumn because I read it for school, and so I think like September, October, November time at school, obviously the autumnal seasons. So yes, that is why I connect this with autumn more so than I think any other book on my bookshelf. But yeah, I feel like I need to give this a reread because it's been nearly 10 years since I read it, I think. God. So I feel like I want to give this a reread. Give a few of my classics a reread. Maybe this autumn time. So yes, this is a book I associate with autumn. We've got what is your favourite autumnal book cover? This isn't necessarily autumnal in that it's looks like it's set at autumn time or there's lots of like leaves or anything like that, but I think the colours on this are very autumnal. So we have The Silence of the Girls by Pat Barker. Again, this isn't necessarily a book that I would like associate with autumn, but looking at my shelves, this is probably the most autumnal feeling cover, purely because I feel like you can see you've got yellows, oranges, reds, very dark, gloomy looking. Purely because of the colours really for this one. But yes, this book isn't really anything to do with autumn. This is a retelling of the Trojan War and the story of Achilles and Patroclus, but from the perspective of Briseis, and focusing somewhat on the women and their lives living in the camps. So yes, this one was good. It's not autumnal, but it kind of looks like it could be. Then we have, what is your favourite autumnal drink? I'm going to be boring and say tea. I love a cup of tea. I have a little bit of milk in mine, no sugar, anything like that. Yeah, I would say I also love a hot chocolate, but I feel like hot chocolate's more of like a winter drink for me. Tea is sort of an all-around, all year round drink. But I do love in the autumn snuggling down in bed, blanket, cup of tea, book. Perfect. So tea is my very boring answer. No fancy Starbucks drink, no pumpkin spice latte, just a plain cup of tea. Next question is, do you prefer to read late at night or early in the morning? I feel like both. I used to love reading at night more, but I think as I've got older, I quite like reading early in the morning, like on a weekend or if I'm not working. There's something about waking up like early enough that I'm not ready to get up and get my day started, and I'm not ready to like get up and have breakfast yet because it still feels too early for that. But yeah, there's something about waking up at like, I don't know, 7:30 when I have like a day off, and so I don't want to get out of bed at 7:30 on a day off, but I'm too awake to go back to sleep. So I'll just like grab my book and I'll just read for, you know, half an hour. And then I feel like accomplished because I've already read like a chapter or 2 or 3 before my day's even started. So there's something nice about reading early morning, I think. Question 5. Halloween is coming. What's your favourite spooky read? The spooky books I have read have all sort of been 3 or 4 stars for me. There's nothing I can think of that's like absolutely loved that really spooky book in recent years. So I'm gonna go with one that is spooky in that it's supernatural, but not actually scary at all remotely. But this is a series I loved and I think so fondly of from when I was a teenager, and that is the Mediator series by Meg Cabot. This is about a teenage girl called Suze who is a mediator, and she can see ghosts, and it's her job to either sort of vanquish them or guide them into the afterlife, get them to like let go of the mortal world. And I read these and reread these so many times when I was a teenager. The 6 books in the original series, and then a few years ago she wrote a 7th book follow-up of Suze as an adult, and I have not yet read it, but I don't know how I feel about it. But these books were incredible. So she also moves house with her family. Her mum's got like remarried, and so they move into this big house, her and her new step family, and she goes to her bedroom and she gets all settled into her house, and then she finds that there's a ghost living in her bedroom, and it's the ghost of a young attractive man. And so there's also that element which I absolutely love. Suze and Jessie, the ghost, were like, I shipped it so hard when I was a teenager. They're like the ship I was most invested in as a teenager before I really knew what like shipping was really. But yeah, these are just a lot of fun, very cheesy, but so entertaining to me. So I'm going with that as a favourite spooky read because there are ghosts. But also, I will say, I've not got the physical book because it's my sister's. But another book I read and reread when I was younger, and that my sister read and reread. I think I was in my later teens when I read this, like maybe 17, 16, 17. It was a book called Ashes by an author called Ilsa J. Bick. And there were 3 books. I enjoyed them all, but the first book was the best. And it was essentially like a zombie apocalypse book. So we had our main character who decided to go on a hike by herself, and she's out in like this hiking trail in the mountains, in the woods, and then a zombie apocalypse breaks out while she's out there, and so she then doesn't fully know what's going on. And it's just her meeting up with various other characters, and yeah, it gets very intense. But it was great. I loved it. It was brilliant. That was, I think, when I was like fully in my love for like The Walking Dead and zombie fiction and stuff like that. But that was a great book. So Ashes by Ilsa J. Bick, if you like survival zombie stuff, that's a good one. Question 6: what is your ultimate comfort read? For this one, I think my comfort reads are historical romances. Lots of books are comforting to me, but there's something about historical romances that I just love. Even if a historical romance isn't great, for the most part, I can find something to enjoy, if done well enough. There's something about that just makes me feel really cozy, and I don't know why. So I have like 2. Well, I have one favourite, which I have reread so many times, but I've not read it in like 7 years or something, so I feel like I need to reread it, but I'm worried that I won't love it as much. But this was like the first ever purely historical romance that I ever read, and that is To Catch a Pirate by Jade Parker. So this is about a main character called Annalisa, and she is on a boat that gets hijacked by pirates, and there's one pirate in particular who finds her hiding below decks, and he takes her, or he goes to take her necklace, but it's her mother's necklace, and she's like, please don't take my necklace, that's all I have of my mother. And so he agrees to let her have her necklace if she instead gives him a kiss. So she does. But then she is like, I'm gonna get my revenge on this pirate. These pirates generally, but this pirate in particular. So then we cut to like a year later, and she has her own ship, through like a letter of marque. But obviously, because she's a woman, she has to get like a male captain and stuff. And she is out to get revenge on this pirate. But does she really hate him, or will the feelings grow into something else? It's very short. I was obsessed with this when I was younger. It's like the first historical romance I read. It's not like smutty in any way. There's a few kisses here and there. It's very chaste, which I think was good for me when I was younger, that I didn't accidentally get into anything more intense than I was expecting. So I loved this. I'm a sucker for a pirate, like, TV show, book, fiction in general, but when it's like a pirate romance, chef's kiss. So yeah, I really love this. This isn't like ultimate. If you want to tell me about like comfort or cozy, I'm like, this book is warm as my heart. And following on from that, a couple of years ago, I read Romancing the Duke, the first in the Castles Ever After series by Tessa Dare, and I really loved this one, and I really want to read more Tessa Dare. This definitely made me feel all cozy and comforted when I read it. So yeah, I need to read more historical romance, but I really enjoyed Tessa Dare's writing in particular. So historical romances are my cozy comfort reads. Next up we have, what is your favourite autumnal snack? I don't know that I have one. I'm not so much like a sweet treats kind of person. I like sweets and I like chocolate, but I'm not like a cinnamon bun, cinnamon roll, pumpkin pasty, anything like that kind of person. Not a fan of donuts, not a fan of muffins, not a fan of cake. I'm weird, I know. So I just say chocolate. I just think there's something very nice about a cup of tea and a bar of chocolate. That suits me perfectly. I'm very boring. Or like a milk chocolate digestive with a cup of tea. That's nice to me. Question 8 is, what is your favourite candle to burn? I love a candle. Love a candle. I am much more of like a fruity scented person. I don't mind a floral. But I'm much more of a like, yeah, fruit or edible. Like I'll have a vanilla, a grapefruit, a pomegranate kind of smell. But there are some fruits that I more associate with summer. So like my grapefruit candles are more of like a spring summer scent to me. Whereas for autumn and winter, I tend to go with like a dark berry, or I had some that I think are red berry candles. So it's quite a sweet scent, but like quite rich as well. So yeah, like a berry candle. Or I have a few that I used to have, which were like more musky. I feel like that's more of an autumn winter thing. So yeah, red berry is my preference, I think. 9 is, when you're not reading, what is your favourite autumnal activity? I love an autumn walk when it's dry, but like crisp. Like the air's kind of chilly, you can put on like a layer or two, a jumper and a coat, or maybe just a jumper. I can wrap up warm, scarf, maybe a hat. So I just feel cozy, but I'm like not too hot and I'm not too cold. Just the right temperature. Yeah, when like the leaves are changing colour and they're crunching underfoot. Yeah, I just feel like that's really lovely. If I'm going out and about, I like an autumn walk. But if I'm staying in but not reading, I love just getting like pillows and cushions and blankets on my bed, cocooning myself, and then watching films, either like fun but autumnal feeling films, or something like slightly scary but not too scary. I'm thinking like a light fantasy or sci-fi, or sometimes a horror film if I keep pausing it. I'm a scaredy cat, if I'm honest. I'm one of those people that will like look up the synopsis of a horror film on Wikipedia as I'm watching the film so I can anticipate what's coming. Does that spoil it? Yes. But I feel comforted. So yeah, autumn walk or really cozy on my bed watching a film. And the last question is, what is on your autumn reading list? I've got a few things, but my main priorities are, in October, I want to read The Ex-Hex because I feel like it's witchy. This is the perfect time of year to read it. So this is about a woman who puts a spell on her boyfriend who breaks up with her, and then like 9 years later they come back into each other's lives, and she realizes that that spell is now like enacted. It's just like a small town witchy romance, which sounds cute. I've heard mixed things, but I think whether I really enjoy it or just somewhat enjoy it, I think it'll be a cute, fun October read. And then in November, I'm planning to read The Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. I think this will be the only book I read in November. I'm so in the mood for fantasy right now. And so this is one of the few fantasy books on my TBR. And so I just want to get to this. This is like a very political novel, I believe. There's not really a synopsis on the back here. It just says, a world divided, a queendom without an heir, an ancient enemy awakens. And I don't know much about the plot, but I kind of want to keep it that way. I just know it's queens and female fighters and dragons and maybe a little bit sapphic, which sounds really fun. But I think it's definitely like a whole month's worth of reading. Yeah, there's over 800, I think nearly 900 pages of this. So it's going to be an undertaking, but I'd quite like to get to it. It's been on my TBR for a couple of years now. I want to get to it and just say I've read it. It will feel like an accomplishment by the end of the year. And that is everything. Yeah, that is the Cosy Autumn book tag. Some bookish questions, some not bookish questions. I quite like the mix. So that is it for this tag. If you would like to do this tag, I think you should. If there's any other tags that you've seen out there that you'd like me to do, feel free to comment them, suggest them below. And I will see you soon with another video. Bye!